Hey losers, welcome to another episode of Submitted for our Disapproval. And it starts for the second time because for the first time I didn't record my own voice, just Wojak and Excalibur who are here with me.
Hi.
Yep,
Uh,
that is me.
and now we are going to talk about cards that are currently on the subreddit. Maybe later, if we'll have enough time, we'll talk about the cards that got in, we'll see. But as you can hear, I already wasted some time by mistake. So, let, do you want to discuss anything specific from here? I mean,
I think Waterlogged Drawer is a very interesting example of a very broken card, actually.
so Waterlogged Drawer, Elemental Spectre object from Zankopolis. Can't attack, start of turn, draw a card, give it Ethereal. And Ethereal is banish this card at the end of the turn if it's still in your hand.
Okay. Wujak, I already see the problems with this. So if you get multiple things of these out, you can draw like multiple cards in a turn. And at that point, it doesn't really matter if they have ethereal, because as long as you can play them, you still get the value off.
No, it's not really the issue. The issue with this card is that it gives you a lot more options in a turn for a very small cost of just one measly stat point and not being able to attack. There's actually a very similar card to this one in well, not in standard, but in the collection right now, and that's Timeskip Magician. What Timeskip Magician does is before combat, it makes you draw a card, and it gains Trick, and that's on a 2-mana 2/3 body. So it pays about the same amount of stat points for that ability. The reason why that card is fair though is because it does it at such a timing before combat. So you need to float mana into it, which makes it really only an aggro card. Warlocked Drawer can go into a lot of both mid-range and control strategies, because worst case scenario, think about this as like banishing the bottom card of your deck that you weren't gonna see anyways.
No,
This
it's
also just goes
balanced because it
very
feels bad.
This also goes very naturally into Dot, because it's a 1-drop with 3 health. Even if Dot can't use this effect as efficiently as, for example, some Mind decks, which really love card draw. But yeah, the easiest way to say it is this is just too much card draw in a 1-drop. Pretty much every 1-drop that we have makes you pay to draw cards. And having the occasional risk of drawing your top end and banishing it is just not really balancing it out, especially in decks that can play a lot of very generic cards.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
definitely can see that. This is way too strong. As I said before in the previous recording, before next recording, I probably try to not vote yet. So
Mm.
let's go. Emissary of Extinction, Transpose. Snake Charmer is a card I'm going to talk about because I feel it's too strong, but it's interesting. So, Snake Charmer is summon create hallucinatory tunes. Start of turn, you may banish a figment from your hand to get +1/+2. And hallucinatory tunes is when this leaves your hand, choose an ally and enemy unit they duel. So it works very similarly to the Lizabo.
Dinobo Warrior is the name of
Yes,
the card.
Dinobo Warrior. Free for that duels, but it does. You don't need to pay that 1 mana anymore. And once this deck will have more synergy, this card will scale more and more and be generally very potent.
So I'm looking at this and I'm realizing that like it's like a weird like convergence between like the Zuriel decks where you want to banish figments from your hand and also like Bard decks by having a song in your graveyard. But the thing is, like, Zuriel decks want to banish cards in their hand, and Bard decks want songs in the graveyard. This card, like Hallucinoid Tunes, banishing it from your hand isn't going to get into the graveyard. Like the two things aren't really going to work well with each other. I think it's just meant to be more of a, I think it's just meant to work, just be like an option for both decks. But I feel like this is just going to be used more for Zuviel. And quick question: how would this get stronger over time? Do you just mean like the units will get bigger, or like is there a combo I don't know? If I don't play Zuviel a lot.
So the thing is, this card is on over curve by its own, and then the more figments get in, the more removal this is.
So this is my cue to actually red pill you on why this card is actually not as strong as you think it is. So first of all, one very important thing is that this is only really a better Dynable Warrior if you don't do the same turn. Otherwise, it is strictly worse. You need to wait a turn for the duel. You can't just play the time to duel. Or hallucinatory tunes in this case. Because you're just gonna end up with just straight up worse unit. Additionally, this is significantly more vulnerable at a 2-2 stat line.
True.
A lot of removal can hit a 2-2 stat line. We have, in fact, 2 mana deal 2 is like the most popular cost to damage ratio in the entirety of the game. As in, every single affinity has access to one or more ways to deal 2 damage for 2 mana, and then there are some ways in neutral as well. So pretty much any deck of any affinity should have a way to deal with this. Mine, for example, just hit this with a hit and run, and they basically just got a worse Dynamo.
Yeah, I'm not really
This
red
is
pilled. I feel like those downsides aren't really enough.
also, I would just say, yeah, no, you don't run this in bards. In bards, this is too much of a tempo loss because you kind of need to banish the
Yeah,
hallucinatory
that's
tunes
exactly like
for this
you
to
have to
work.
banish it. You can put it into your graveyard.
Here's the thing, Jack, about our meta. Bards are very popular with bad players and they will run it.
You're not wrong. Um, Optimally, you probably wouldn't though, because there's
Yeah.
exactly one case in which this is good in bards, and that is if you run like Freezy Pop, get Live Bond from the air, combine it with what can I call this? I mean, it's some interaction, right? Or you could drop a Pop Tsar.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Pop Czar, play hallucinatory tunes. Like, after clear, like, you have Pop Czar duel maybe,
Um,
one time before, and then trigger Pop Czar twice.
I mean that's the thing though. The song that Pop Tsar gives you is literally the exact same effect, except Pop Tsar is a much better body and has a way better effect that synergizes with the deck more.
And
Yeah.
here's I thought, does it
It's like a removal and also a cost reduction. It's
the,
pretty nice.
is there a possibility that there will be a merge deck where you run some bards and some dreams?
Not really. I don't think there will be. Bards are a very focused combo deck.
Yeah, I certainly see where
You
you're
can
coming from.
maybe justify. I mean, maybe you can justify running some of the Zuriel package in there for card draw, like Floral Painter and Presenter, maybe for the ambushers, then discount with Portal Snipe, but I don't think that's there right now. At least I know definitely isn't there right now, and I don't think it will be in the near future.
Well,
And this card doesn't really help that either. Well, not enough at least.
I mean, you rarely see such efforts of merging archetypes, and they are pretty admirable in my opinion. They just usually fail. Uh, so yeah, this card was discussed about. So me and Wojak, I believe, already picked a card. So maybe it's your turn, Excalibur Mac.
Okay.
I mean, you didn't memorize all of them, so.
What card are you talking about?
Um, yeah, exactly. Maybe I'm going to change the view. So this will allow you to talk about them better. I mean, pick a card better. Yeah.
Just pick a card. I thought like you there was like a specific card you're gonna show me.
No. What else could I mean by pick a card?
Oh, pick a card. Okay. How about that Hunger Spirit you posted?
Yeah. What about him?
I mean, I'd like to say it. I don't think I've ever really seen like a food deck, but I understand like, some people are trying to like push that a bit more,
uh,
especially with the Great Pastry Heist.
so food decks are playable right now.
Food decks
Actually,
are actually very viable right now. They're solid tier 1 to tier 2 deck.
I would say tier two because
The thing that's holding them back from tier 1 is that they are not consistent and they rely on very much high rolled rolls and sticking very specific units.
they are dwarfs of standard basically.
In a way, yes.
So I
A
got
lot of the deck revolves around Duskport Chef,
so
just discounting everything by
I got
one.
specific
That makes sense.
feedback because I gave some prompts for Mid Journey to Nuance, and he told me, and he gave me this and the other card I submitted, and so I changed it, and then I asked people in the VC, what cards the food deck need, right? And one of the responses I got was interaction, because the uh, food has two pieces of interaction: the speed demon and
So
knuckle
Speed Demon, it's
sandwich.
Road Maniac
Road
has them.
maniac, yes. So I thought so this is an early game interaction, so I was thinking about making a late game interaction like this.
Well, I will admit, I do like the fact that it costs one less. And at first, I looked at the other one. I said, like, why does it have overrun? It's only one attack. Then I remembered, oh yeah, feed. It could be fed into being a bigger unit.
That is indeed the intent. Um, I've played food a very small amount to be fair, but from the experience I've had with it, um, this card's power level varies extremely based on your draws, which is nothing new in food. Um, there are openers in which you would be able to drop this guy on turn 3 for 0 mana, or turn 4.
I feel like you could also,
And
like, mill.
then there are openers in which you will not drop him until turn 5 or 6.
Huh.
And like maybe if you're lucky he will cost 2. This is not really an issue with the card. I think the card itself is actually pretty potent.
I mean, I like
It's
it.
a bit slow. The lack of agile stops it from like participating in the combo playstyle food too much. But if for a more mid-rangey build that wants more consistency tools and doesn't depend on the high roll as much, I think this is very fine.
So this is a good future for the food we want.
Yeah.
Let's finish Dark Duskport Chef first. And
And
Prage.
yeah, we're
I
go-
mean, listen, if we get more Duskport Chef where it's like your food costs one less, then, eventually food's just going to get really cheap.
It's like the one card I have a problem with in the entire deck right now. At
yeah.
least it's not fucking pre-nerf Portal Pie. That card was actually agonizing to play against.
I heard stories about it.
From my understanding, it's like every time a unit was fed, you'd scout a card and then it would play it.
I wouldn't play it, but they would add the
So,
abilities and
for
just
Jack, your
count it.
turn for picking a card to discuss.
Oh, I did go back. Oh, actually, never mind. There it is. Scarlet's Resolution. That's it. God, what a incomprehensible. I have met a terrible fate. This is a repost, and I think at least one step of the card's effect was cut. I believe it was a part where it destroyed all units and returned them to play.
Darn.
So you basically it creates Scarlet, which is that unit there, has +1/+1 for every other neutral unit in play. It triggers all unit summons, it banishes them, and then creates silence 2/2 copies of them. So it's like a weird board wipe that also is supposed to give you a large unit that you can't use on the first turn because it didn't have agile.
I have a lot of issues with this card, honestly.
Squid. Why is it still a squid?
So
Just say it like
First,
a horror
I think
titan.
Fly for Wise is meant to be like Nyarlathotep from the Cthulhu mythos because it's like similar in look to them.
I mean, yeah,
that
but like
is, I'm
squid,
gonna
I
just
don't
say it
think
straight
squid's
up, that
a
is like
tribe.
completely a coincidence, most likely, because JTAD did not make this art with any card in mind or anything in mind. Quite literally, I was there. He was just like, "What if I draw Eldritch and Femboy?" And then
And,
he
Yeah.
drew Eldritch Femboy.
but Nyarlathotep is Eldritch. Like that's one of the
I
the
wanna say
OG
that's
ones.
coincidence,
Very well done.
but uh,
So, like, if it triggers all other units' summons abilities, that includes it triggers the abilities for your opponent, right? So your opponent would
yes.
also get a bunch of stuff. If this is against like a bard or summon focused deck, you're kind of just giving your opponent a bunch of things.
So this is a weird 8-mana pseudo board wipe that's meant to give you a very big unit. And the thing is that if it did just that, if it just like was create Scarlet, silence all units and set their stats to 2/2 or whatever. That's fine. Maybe change the flavor, attach the effect to the unit at that point and not to an action.
Yeah.
But it goes through a lot of random jumps with first the summons, then the banish, proccing effects like PSG,
I know there's like an
and
archetype
there's
like with
really
like
no
banish
flavor
cards in
here to
play.
speak of,
Yeah,
which is nothing new for Anon design, sadly. And then there's minor gripe. The crop on Scarlet herself really annoys me
I
because
didn't see original art.
the
I'm assuming it wasn't
character is
originally made
so
for a
far to
card
the
frame, isn't it?
left,
Oh, the squid card squid. Okay, yeah, I know what I'm talking about.
and then the squid tribe is in fact not a thing that exists.
Yeah.
There's the fish tribe, we do not have the squid tribe. There's actually a card named Squid. It has ward. It does not have the squid tribe, it has the fish tribe.
Also, just more in terms of flavor, it doesn't even bring up the fact that it looks like it's a eldritch being with femboy clothing. Like
I
I'm
think
reading the
that's for
flavor
the better.
text.
I think that's for the better.
I
So
mean, yeah,
I
if you want to
remember
do something like this, maybe just don't use this art
the
because
first
it's
time
meant to be a
this
joke.
card was brought up, or like was posted, someone asked about the flavor of it, and if I remember correctly, the response to that was what I can only describe as like a essay worth of a fanfic about a JTAD art, and that was very cringe to read.
I think I remember something about like that as well. I didn't read it, but I think I
I
knew it
read a
exists.
little bit of it, and it made me appreciate the card less, not more. Is all I'm saying.
Listen, if you need to read fan fiction to understand a card, you're not making a good card.
I
Hmm.
mean, simply put, you can very easily salvage this design. Make it basically something like, what's his name? Devourer of Words. Just a unit, literally with Scarlet's effect, like different art. Just different art. Move away from this because this is gonna be like quirky. Um, get something, I don't know, like more from like HPL Titan maybe, I don't know. Uh, cut the first two lines of the text from the action and slap that shit onto a summon for the fucking unit itself. There you go. We're fine.
Wouldn't
We've got
that
a
be
design.
just basically a humility?
Kind of. It's
It
better
would be
than
like a
humility, actually.
humility that would
That's
stay
another
even
thing,
if the
funny
unit
enough.
left.
This card is also just a fair bit too strong. If it on a high roll, that is. It's weird. Um, the thing is that because of how the game works, if this hits a unit with ward, um, I
Enemy unit with war.
believe it will just create a copy of it, and it will not banish it. So
Oh
let's say
yeah.
there's a Vera on the board,
No, that only
that
works
Vera
on
will still
enemy
be
units.
there. Well, yes, I'm talking about enemy units. Um, which is, I think, a big part of why I don't like the part where it just creates copies. Just make it silence the original. Silence the original, exhaust them, turn them into tutus. It achieves basically the exact same purpose without the hoops. Um, but the thing is that then you realize that, oh yeah, turning everything into a tutu, and it's exhausted and silenced, and also I get like a big beat stick. It's kind of too much on an 8 cost card. So
Uh,
at that point, probably dink the mana by +1.
yeah, that's a fair point. So let's go back into picking cards.
Oh, that's a 4 mana draw for 4 mana draw for Tetra.
Yes.
Oh god.
This card actually raises a very interesting question.
What is it?
That is, how do you value draw in collective?
I don't.
Is 4 mana to draw 4 cards fair if it's just on a 1-1? Or let's say on an action?
I don't know.
I wanna
It's.
say no, but the tempo loss that you take from this makes me want to say yes.
I
Which
honestly,
is,
anytime I think of card draw, I kind of just think of meticulous research
But
because it's just like pay 3 mana, draw 2 cards. I know that's an older card and it's like a reprint now, but I feel like
that's the thing. Meticulous research has basically. I don't remember last time it has been a viable card. It's very bad. 3 mana draw 2 is a bad effect. There are some 2 mana draw 2s that see play, but 3 mana draw 2 is not really. And the higher you go, draw becomes weaker and weaker. Really, like we have I think there's a 6 mana draw for even right now in standard, and that's basically unplayable.
are we talking about the Atlas?
Yes, Atlas's Globe. So if 6 mana draw 4 is unplayable, what's the fair cost to draw 4 cards at?
well,
Is it
just
5 or is it
neutral
4?
draw 4 cards.
Last
If
time,
6 cost isn't it, would it be 5 cards?
last time, the Atlas Globe was playable was when the Ash rolled in, right?
It was with Ash because you could cheat it out for free. And it was the largest possible card draw that you could cheat out for free. I look at the 4 mana draw 4 like this, and I think this is a bit too much. Honestly, it is really, really good card draw. But it does make me question it, second guess myself.
So the card I'm picking is going to be Elixir of Jealousy, which is 2 mana rebound, take 3 damage, shuffle 3 Burn Spire into your deck, they cost 2 less. Burn Spire is 3 mana deal free. When the opponent gain HP this turn, they lose that much.
So, okay, beyond flavor questions. You literally just take 3 damage, you shuffle 3 of those things into your deck, And while they are one drop, deal 3 damage, they're also just. This is actually kind of interesting. This is kind of. Honestly, this reminds me of a special. What was that card? Like the prototype card that shuffles prototypes into deck. Was it Special Delivery?
Oh god.
Did that
I
get
do not
in?
remember, but all I remember is that card is very bad.
The delayed
I th-
delivery, I believe.
I think it's delayed delivery.
because like I look at this and I'm like, okay, so you take 3 damage, shuffle three of those into your deck. It has rebound, so you can play it again. You'll probably, if you don't draw into this, you're kind of just wasted, mana.
And you NHP.
Like at least like I looked up the card. At least like delayed shipment, which is the card I was thinking of. They at least it creates 5 prototypes and 10 cards in your deck. So you know at the very least you'll draw it if you get lucky enough. And when they're drawn, you draw an extra card. So at the very least, they don't like take up a turn. It's not like you draw a card and like it takes up that draw for the turn.
Yeah, this is certainly on the weaker side of cards. Um, but how would you improve it? Does it have ambition of being in the pain decks?
Yes, this card is so weird to me that the first time I saw it, I honestly thought it was an anon card, but it isn't, apparently.
Yeah, it's a new player card.
Um, this I think can be salvaged. So right now there are a few distinct issues with this card, and that is one, it is too luck based. You're shuffling 3 cards into a presumably 40-card deck at that point.
Yeah,
The chances of you drawing them are pretty low, and you need to draw at least like 2 really for it to be worth it. And not really, but whatever. Um, I think the most interesting part of this card actually is that it makes Burn Aspires cost 1. Because Burn
yeah.
Aspire has been a very potent card, but it has one very big downside. That is that it costs 3 mana. 3 is a lot of mana to pay for a proactive play, just to disable healing. 1 makes it a little more versatile. So I guess how do we fix this? First of all, I think this can just cost 1 mana.
Would would it still have the rebound though? Because what I'm thinking is like maybe shuffle the Burn the Spires into like the top 10 cards of your deck.
I
You know,
think
like
it can have both. If you make it shuffle into the top X cards of your deck, you probably want to make it 2 Burn the Spires at that point,
because I feel like 3
instead of
would be a bit
3, and
much.
thinking
Yeah.
to 1. This should almost certainly cost 1 mana. I think an interesting question is, do you want the take 3 damage part to be on there?
So I think it's part of the flavor with the jealousy thing, but
It doesn't translate very well to me. I guess it's like
Like, would this
taking
be
damage, you
played in
don't
like a
want
burn
them
deck?
to
Because I'm
heal the
thinking like a
damage.
1 mana take 3 damage, or not burn, a pain deck. 1 mana take 3 damage would probably like
It's
I feel like pains would like that because
it's a
1
lot
mana
of
block all your
damage. It's a
things.
lot of damage to
It
play is the
is
thing. Pain runs a lot of cards that are very strong, but they make you spend a lot of HP for their effects. For example, Hate Bomber, which makes you pay, I believe, 4 health, and Roscoe Courier, which makes you take 5. And it is a burn deck, so Burn the Spire would definitely fit into it. It
so
would be a
how about
fitting reward.
how about lowering the damage to 2?
I was also thinking that lower damage 2, shuffle 2, burn the spires, it costs 2 less. Also a weird 2 theme.
Into the top.
Yeah.
How many? It's a good. Could go with 5. it's somewhere between 5 to 10. I think 5 is actually fine if you're shuffling just 2, because an aggro deck doesn't really want to spend the mana drawing cards. Yeah, just make it
True.
2, 2 into the top 5. They cost 2 less. Uh, at that point, there's still a question of, do you want the mana cost to be 2 or do you want it to be 1? I think if it's
Would
just
it be should it be a 1-drop with rebound?
yeah, I
Because at
think
that point
if it
it's
has
like 4 burn the
rebound,
spirits in the top 5 cards of your deck.
if this has rebound and shuffles into the top 5, it costs 2. If you cut the rebound, it can probably. No, I think 2 is actually the right cost for this. It's a very scary effect though,
Yeah.
because it's essentially 4 mana deal 6 with the downside of taking 2 damage.
And also preventing your opponent from gaining HP.
Though in a way you are basically breaking 2 of your draws for that. So it's
Yeah.
probably fair.
If you play multiple Born Spires a turn, they not only are prevented from gaining HP, but are also actively losing it when trying to gain it, which doesn't just disable their life bonders, but it makes it a downside.
True. I don't think that's super relevant though. It's
Well,
gonna come up,
it's
but
not super relevant right now, but when it costs 1 and you can draw multiples, then that's more relevant.
true.
So, who picks the card now?
I believe it's me. It was Wujek, and then like you went Popka, and then I'm supposed to go.
Sure.
Uh, Arrow Wasp. Let's talk about Arrow Wasp because
That is one of the cards of all time for sure.
so it's a 3. It's a neutral 3 wait, fuck, I'm trying to read the card. So Arrow Wasp is a neutral 3-drop 6/5 software insect golem from uplink with your cards cost 1 more, and if you end your turn with at least 2 unspent mana while this is in hand, silence this. So here's the thing, like I look at this and I say to myself, it's fairly easy to have 2 unspent mana in hand, right? You just have to spend like turn 2 not playing anything, or just spend a turn with only this in hand.
Yes. It's the thing
Because
is,
like at
do
that
you
point, then it's just like a 3-drop really overcurved thing.
uh do you want to spend 2 mana to give a vanilla +2/+1?
Well,
Because
you're
that's what
not
you're
just
getting.
spending 2 mana because well, here's the thing. What I'm thinking is sometimes you'll have sometimes you won't have a lot of cards in hand. Like if let's okay, how do I phrase this? So I've played a card with like a horde effect that triggers in hand. And usually when that thing would proc, it's usually just when I don't play, like when I play all the other cards I have in hand, but I still have some mana, which happens later on in the game. But usually at that point, it's usually decided on who's going to win or not.
That's the thing. Um, I don't know how I feel about this card. With the small, I guess not really commentary, but the comment that like Spacey made when posting this, I assume it was intended to be code block support. It was on Discord, not on Reddit. Um, but it doesn't actually do anything for the code block game plan.
Exactly. Actually, Wujek,
Um,
I was hoping you could explain the code block game
Uh,
plan because not a lot of people.
maybe we'll get to that discussion of code blocks altogether after the discussion of this card. Uh,
Good idea.
sure.
because I am thinking that the Euro cards cost 1 more isn't always a downside because we have some cost-based effects in collective right now. One obvious example is Rose Court Courier being able to deliver 2 drops, or 4 drops if you play them of Affinity even. I mean 3 drops. And another thing is that no wait, those cards cost 1 more everywhere. Never mind, bad card. No, but yeah, those there are effects that care about that, and another. And for example, I think if this is in play, this can't die to defense trait because it costs 4 in play.
Yes.
Oh, you're right. Defense trade could just destroy this.
And
Yeah, it
this is
cannot because it can only have units that cost 3 or less, and this will
this
cost 4.
this is an example of that. And generally speaking, this is a card for a kind of Sail of Silence archetype that doesn't exist yet. That has like already ability to self silence on its own.
There do exist a few self-silence cards, and this being a golem means that it can get targeted by some of those actually. Um, Specifically remove, since a golem from deck puts it at the bottom of the deck. The thing is that you're not really gonna be going out of your way to draw this, just for a measly +2/+1 payoff. The part where it increases the cost of your card is definitely interesting. As you already mentioned, there are cards that make this very relevant. One thought that I have already is that if you can drop this on turn 3 in Baldwin, you can cheat out any 5-drop from your deck instead of any 4-drop with martial promotion effects, which
Dear
is very
God.
relevant. That's actually very relevant because that's the main thing that Baldwin does, especially in Legacy. In Legacy right now, Baldwin has basically one deck, and that is demons. And the reason why Baldwin is Demon Baldwin is so potent is it can just casually shit out Forlorn
Uh,
consistently from your deck
no,
with martial
here's
promotion
the
effects.
thing. This actually increases the cost of cards in your deck too, and not just in play. So it
Oh,
doesn't
never
work.
mind, bad card.
Yeah, that's yeah.
Yeah,
Bad card, never mind.
maybe don't make it in all zones. Huh? Hand in play would be enough.
If you make it hand and play, the martial promotion effects work. Then it also makes a lot more sense in code blocks because you can tweak the costs of your things for better if then play lines. Um, and just better swaps in general, better marshals. But if it's in all zones, yeah, that's a bit awkward.
Increases the damage of the Shriek from Beyond by 1.
That is true. It does. And yeah, the second ability is cute but largely irrelevant outside of maybe promo, and I feel like there are better things that you want to be doing in promo than playing a 3 mana 6/5 vanilla dingus without like that doesn't even have overrun.
I do like the Carnalon, but right now it's kinda so bad.
It's a cute design, and I think this could go places.
I think we could
Um,
have some
at
kind of
least some things.
vanilla deck that's like because that just generates a lot of big bodies, but that at that point you kind of just playing food. Uh,
Yeah,
so the vanilla combo playline is more exciting, and this card doesn't really feel feel fit into much.
it's also worth noting that this card, again, the part where it stands itself, it suffers a lot from it being a 6/5 with no overrun. Big vanilla beatsticks without overrun are really rough to utilize in collective.
Well, unless you have a whole board of them, as food has proved.
That is true. You can get a lot of them, sure, but otherwise no effects. You're just gonna get chump blocked.
Yeah.
So yeah, this card right now is pretty bad. Which is a shame because it's fairly exciting and a bug.
I do really appreciate the art. It is very neat.
So who decides now?
I believe it's Wujak's turn now to choose a card.
Oh really now? Let's go for. I'll go down actually, because I'm seeing something. I spy with my little eye a diamond mosaic,
Dimming.
which is
I think it's supposed to say
no,
dimming.
it's no, I know it is, but this is a showcase that Polish people cannot speak English,
Oh my
uh,
fucking
because
god.
It's
no, but
supposed to be two M's.
It's such a dogshit fucking language, I swear.
I'm sorry, it's the language I grew up on,
Like the
okay?
pronunciation and writing is completely unrelated. How do people use this shit?
I don't know.
but yeah, no, the actual reason I want to talk about this card is just the hand disruption aspect, um, and that is, I guess, how much is cantrip worth in an affinity with a lot of card draw? Diving Mosaic is very similar to a card from Spirit, Data Disruption. Data Disruption just discards a card from the opponent's hand for 2 mana. This silences a card in the enemy hand, which is effectively a discard in a vast majority of circumstances. The only cases in which it isn't is if your opponent is playing some cards that depend on hand size for their effects, which a few of those exist. Paint and Power is a very good example of that, for example. There's also Mirage Swamp Stomper, but that's less popular. Or if the opponent is playing Code Blocks.
Well, here's the thing. A code. I feel like the code block thing. It matters more because they could easily silence one of the code block, golems you have in hand that you really need to use, like if then.
Yeah, I mean, yes, it can still be useful, of course. I said it more kind of
But
joke.
the thing is, would you be willing to pay 3 mana for that? I mean, you also get to draw a card, which is nice, kind of cantrippy.
Yeah, this essentially pays a 1 mana tax for a cantrip effect, which is solid. It's a question of the difference between 2 mana and 3 mana. Because cards in collective, specifically for control wants very flexible cards, as you need to react to what your opponent is doing to play past them being a thing.
Yeah.
Um, and 3 mana taps you out of a lot of mana. Um, Also, this is kind of funny in the context of there actually being a card that's similar to this in the card pool already, and this brutally power creeps it. As right now in the card pool we have 3 mana, choose a card in the opponent's hand, increase its cost by 4, draw a card.
Oh, true.
This is a better effect, but they're really close. The +4 cost usually basically means they're not gonna play the card, and that card is still no play.
Well, it saw some play actually, just not a lot.
It's so very limited play. The
Are you
one time
thinking
I
about service denial?
Yes, service
I
denial. The one time I
That's a 3 cost.
remember,
That's also a 3 cost mind action. It costs 3 mana.
yes, the one time I remember that card seeing play, it was, funnily enough, because I played it in the legacy format, because it was one of the few legacy formats where we had the ban list and honeypot was legal. Therefore, if you wanted to play a deck, you kind of had to shove your sideboard with 15 cards worth of disruption to use against honeypot decks. And service denial was one
So,
of the least bad ones.
hmm. So,
Well, here's the thing. Are you willing to give up like a slot in your deck for like to like for something like this, like a control thingy for your opponent's hand, so they can't play a card that they could use for their strat?
so the
I
thing
want to say still yes.
So the thing
I think it's
worth thinking about this is that it's better when hitting an action because it doesn't just make it unplayable, it makes sure they will never play it, they can return it to a hand from graveyard, nothing. But it's worse on units because it just makes them undercurve vanilla.
True.
which usually if you're playing an undercurve vanilla, you're losing a lot of tempo with that, and that can snowball into you losing the game.
I mean, it's more tempo than 3 mana silence that vanilla, right?
Hmm. I feel like this is just very meta dependent. I
Yeah,
like the card,
I
but
do like the
it's
card. Yeah.
definitely very niche. It's more niche than Data Disruption, just by the nature of it, well, costing one more. Is there a
So
way to make it better? Draw a card, discard a card. But that makes it kind of an upgrade over Data Disruption. So it's the question of do you really want to go with that?
I feel like this might get in because like it has like 8 upvotes right now. It probably like unless
I mean,
other big
another way to
cards get
buff it
in.
is by adding a second M. I think that really makes its role in MM decks like very impressive.
3Q for Jack.
Listen, I'm making BBs, okay? All I'm saying is one day we could have MMs.
MMs.
So whose turn is it now? Is it mine?
It's your turn, Popka.
What are we discussing anymore? Uh,
Oh, I would say Dirt to Everywhere is a very interesting candidate.
okay, you choose because I'm not going to spend too much time choosing. So,
So this card is just very blatant broke.
Door to Everywhere is 0 mana, shuffle your hand into your deck, draw that many from both decks randomly.
So either you just shuffle. It's either just a zero cost. So like okay, so this is like a very RNG thing based thing. Either it's a zero cost door to, or you're like zero cost door, which lets you try to get new cards into your hand, which could be really useful. And also just like the possibility of randomly getting a card from your opponent's deck. What I want to know is how the hell does it randomize it?
I assume
Is
that
it
for each card that was originally in your deck, which this is a block that's for sequence of numbers 1 through 13. It just that random picks one because it rolls a number from 1 to 2, and if it rolled 1, you draw from your deck. If it rolled 2, you draw from your opponent's deck. That's my assumption, at least, because that's how the effect reads, basically. Um, that effect is actually a pretty interesting concept when it comes to just disruption.
yeah?
Uh, until you realize that running 3 copies of this card in your deck means if you can fill your hand, you end up milling the opponent for 18 on average on a 0 cost card that can be easily recurable.
Epic, upvote.
At
And
least give them
it's
points for
not
following the
even
flavor
a
text.
regular mill,
You
it's
know,
not even like sent to graveyard so they can shuffle it back. No, it's banish. Just gone. Sorry, no, you don't get a deck. Just for 0 mana. And that is very silly. The decks that
yeah.
basically just loop to Dirt to Everywhere would definitely exist if this card got in, and I would say they would definitely be capable of breaking your opponent's deck by turn 5.
Although it is also very RNG based
Yeah,
because there's just a chance you could just
This
draw
is
all
the
of your
worst part.
cards.
Sometimes you could just draw nothing from their deck and just draw your cards.
yeah, I don't
Yeah,
know. Here's the thing: when you get only cards from their deck, you kind of just get cards that are of affinity most of the time and don't work for you, which is a huge
and
downside.
The fact
even
that
if
you
they
have
do work for you, there is a chance that they just like they're either not enough for you to salvage it into like a combo thing, or it's just like if this does get in and two people are playing the exact same decks, this would honestly be very funny to see. But again, not that great of a card.
the way you use this is that in the mind you have a lot of specifically like 2 cost units that allow you to recur a action. You have the Spectre, which gives an action in hand when it's played. You create a copy of it. You have the other Spectre that just I don't know what it's Spectre, maybe an Arcanist, but it fetches a action from your graveyard and gives the Furial, relevant. And then you have Arcane Familiar, which gives rebound to action in hand. There's a lot of ways to loop this effect. On average, you will totally be able to play this card 7 through 9 times a game. And this is on top of probably the other mill cards that you're running. So yeah, this card is just
Still,
very
but like the more
silly
consistent the
broken.
effect is, the less consistent your deck is, though.
True.
And
I mean, I think that's kind of the part though. You
There's
basically
also just the
play.
fact all of the stuff you said is all speculation.
Yes,
I mean,
absolutely.
yeah, it kind of always is.
There pretty much always is.
Good point.
But I don't think a card should be able to mill this much for this cheap, or do mill more than that, or mill nothing at all.
Yeah.
The random aspect of this card, I wouldn't say is the only thing ruining its concept. It's also the balance. Like, but balance can be fixed. You can put a mana cost on this effect. It being random is not really something that you can salvage unless you make it evenly spread. And at that point, you need to put a big tax on this so it's not too consistent at milling.
I feel like this is an effect for some kind of wackier cube or something like that.
Maybe. I mean, who
I
knows?
add this to my
Anonymous
cube next
design.
time. I like submit it with a bunch of new cards, and this is one of them.
Sure, I mean, that's.
Well,
So,
I hope
Okay.
it doesn't get in.
I believe I can choose next. Or okay, we're gonna look at transpose.
I mean, I didn't choose previous one, but if you want something specific.
No, let's look at transpose first. I was just gonna choose the code block I posted so Wujek could explain the code block combo.
Oh yeah, because we said this earlier about code blocks and then I forgot.
Oh,
Okay.
no, she forgot!
I'm going to
Oh
I'm
no!
going to click the card right now.
There it is.
So transpose is an 1-mana card with fast that discards a card and chooses to draw a card that has one less or one more than that card. So this is very strong, right?
Yes, this is a very strong consistency though.
Too strong?
Funny enough. Debatable. One thing that would definitely cut is the fast. Just remove that.
Yeah, definitely. Like not being able to disrupt whatever you was called tutored is kind of scary.
But I think if you cut the fast, this card is pretty fine.
Honestly, like it is also very
it
limited by
requires you-
what cards you have in hand.
Yeah. It rewards very specific deck building, and it is again limited by what you have in hand, and you go -1 for the effect. I think that's perfect.
This card will be very cool with Wasp. We pretend that exists, but actually doesn't exist.
I actually, funnily enough, made a card that's like this exact same effect at one point for code blocks. I just never got the art for it, so I'm somewhat biased towards it. But yeah, no, this is a very nice effect.
I
like
think
it.
my main concern is just to discard a card because I immediately think of like, spirit specters and how they like to discard stuff.
Yeah,
I think my main concern is this man's hand. Like, that is not how a hand should look. If your
yeah.
hand looks like this, you should seek help.
No, it's one of Geotims from Jamel. He's just
I mean, I know that they're meant to be blue, but I don't know. I feel like
just
fingers
wait
shouldn't
just
look like
wait till
that.
we design a card of this of like an old guy with the messed up hands.
So I feel
Yes,
this sucked his other three fingers and it warps his hand slowly.
He's transposing his own hand.
Reaperino.
technically possible in Gamma lore, but I believe it is not exactly common.
Wait, is it Gamel or Jamel? Because I've been pronouncing it as Gem.
Gamel.
Gamal.
It's been Gamel this entire time. God damn! This is the GIF situation again.
It's English, dude. This language makes no sense. You can pronounce this as fucking Jamal, Gamal, Gimil, Gemuel, probably even.
No,
So this is what it's like with
Gemual.
another language. Wow, Spanish class in college is going to be annoying.
Yeah, the last two sound pretty Spanish to me, but yeah. I think we all can agree that English is a very bad language and should be destroyed. So,
I mean,
At
Gemel is
least
the
do it
fucking
after I'm
Polish
gone, okay?
pronunciation, to be fair.
hmm? I didn't hear
If-
Bojack because you said all at once.
Gemel do be the Polish pronunciation, though.
Okay, so the scene is yours, guys.
So,
okay, so do you want to?
in hi-
Do you, oh yeah, go ahead.
I used to say that in hindsight, we really should have changed the name of this card because expand makes no sense as the name of the card. Because the thing that with previous
Shit.
code blocks, I've like, me and second, whoever
Could
else
I
designed
say
for
it? You
them.
said expand. I thought it was expend
Oh,
because it's
expand.
like XPND expend. I assumed that was like
Okay, you
I
know what? You
think
can
that's
read
what.
that like another name works. Whatever, sure. Because yeah, the code block names usually are related to in some way to what they do, except for if then, which used to actually be an if then effect, but no longer is because I changed it. It did change the name, so that's the irrelevant part of the thing. That run was completely pointless. But yeah, this is a card that shows showcases a part of what code blocks are designed to do. Code blocks were originally conceived um when I was playing Yu-Gi-Oh, funnily of all games, and there's a small archetype in Yu-Gi-Oh called Heretics. And what Heretics do is they have monsters with effects that, on tribute, put vanillas from your deck into play as 0/0s. They
Hey,
basically just
Bojack,
use this
when
stats.
you brought that up, it was in the context of someone else trying to make a vanilla archetype, and you and Grief talking. That's not how you make a vanilla archetype, and then you.
That was another thing. That was another thing.
Do you remember
Um,
what that was?
but that came after. I wanted to do a resource thing earlier than that. But yeah. Um, what heroes do, they put vanillas into play and they overlay them into Xyz plays to get their big boss monsters out. Code blocks do something similar. Not quite. What the archetype is designed to do is get vanillas from deck into play and then swap them with big boss monsters from your deck that don't exist yet but will eventually. um, it is an archetype that I'm honestly glad has at least started to pop off because it requires a lot of cards and a lot of pieces to be functional.
So
the fact
could
that,
I
that
state
the
like
fact that I, I we managed to actually get a start on it is already amazing. And expand goes into that game plan. It puts a blank unit from your deck into play as a 1/1.
you
This
also
allows you to
mentioned you
reveal
wanted
it.
like an alternative to move two, and I figured this would just be a very
Yes.
simple thing. Like this is very similar to like an older design of move two, but back then it
This is
was an entomb,
actually original move too, except
essentially.
not an entomb, it's an entrance.
Yeah, literally, it's just that.
Um, but yeah, one thing that code blocks really want is consistency. So having move to and expand, expand, whatever, XP and D have very similar effects makes a lot of sense. This redundancy is kind of needed for the deck's combo playstyle to function. Um,
There is
and yeah,
also the
this fits
problem
right
of it
in
being
because
able to mana cheat anything.
sort of because it's restricted to specifically blank units.
Well, here's the thing. So I remember, like you stated, you wanted the deck to just stick to like bringing out golems, and that was the purpose of like code
So
block
okay,
VMV.
originally yes, with my original version of the code blocks, I wanted to have them have a somewhat restricted pool of cards that they can fetch from, and this can just put any blank unit into play. The thing is that back then I assumed we would actually maybe somehow manage to print vanillas for mana costs that we want them to access, and we could bounce around the tribes that vanilla has, right?
Yeah.
Um, and that's why this just fetching specifically blank units, that's a fine enough restriction itself because you can bounce around what vanillas there are. If anything, their main issue would be copycat being able to copy anything, but you can just
That
put a
was
restriction
I
on
would like to.
copycat.
Could I actually state why I designed a copycat? Like it was specifically for like code blocks, but I remember my thought process behind it.
I mean, sure.
Copycat cat. Basically, so when you first explained like the code block thing to me, like get a blank unit out, play if then, swap it out with something else. I pointed out that vanillas just like vanillas just aren't really good, and very few of them exist in the game. And like while there are synbots that can like silence themselves, there was nothing that was high cost and had good tribes you want to swap out with.
Mhm.
So like together we first designed code block VMV, but I looked at it and I realized that there weren't really any high cost golems with good tribes, which again you figured we'd get those eventually in.
Yep.
So then I said,
there is one on high cost golem on the subreddit right now, submitted by Lyman, the 7 cost.
Mhm.
I
It was
believe
actually pretty
Wujek
good.
actually. Yeah, I believe like Wujek, you suggested that a little bit, or at least like you could replace
Uh,
one of these tribes with Golem.
yeah, that card was originally a Titan Giant instead of a Golem Titan, and I was like, you could just replace one of those because it's pretty redundant. But yeah, that card does actually work as a pair for
So
code blocks or something to go into.
when I realized we lacked like good targets to make silence golems out of, I just said, you know what? What if I just made a card like like I I think I literally just like I do a weird mix of like figure out the name and then the effect, and I figured just having a card that could copy the stats and the cost and the tribes of one of your highest cost units in your deck would be a really good thing because basically how I understood code blocks was you silence a unit, like you have you at least have 2 copies of a big unit, silence one of those copies, bring it out, swap that silence one with with the other copy that still has its abilities and stuff. I just said just skip some of the steps, just have something with its cost and tribes.
And that
And so
makes a lot
that's
of
where
sense.
like
Again, I actually like. Ideally, I would like to have some vanillas for mana costs that code blocks could access for more versatility. And Copycat basically just says, "Hey, so what if we just like didn't print like a vanilla for every higher cost? Because that's a bit silly." And I like that. Um, it it is a little bit.
it's a bit
It's
strong, I will
it's a little
admit.
bit strong in that it can now it does allow the archetype to now fetch anything out, but it can get very easily fixed by a restriction. And yeah, again, as I said, expand
So,
works perfectly for the deck because it fills the niche of moving a vanilla into play, and
so that
you
was
can do with that vanilla
about
whatever you want.
code blocks. Downvote.
This is the most disruptable one by far.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but I made that like intentionally. I was like, okay, I like the fact that it made its stats into a 1/1, and I also figured like move two, especially with copy at cat, which is how I pronounce its name, but I understand why others won't. Move two can move that into play, and it's usually like usually it'll have like high HP, and while there are destroy cards, not every deck will have that.
Mhm.
I figured having it move like a blank unit into play, set its stats to a specific cost, and then just have it there forever. That's especially for like 1 mana less. I feel like that's just a good little drawback.
so this will pretty much always bring the copycat, right?
Basically, I mean, yeah, it would only bring copycat because the other thing you could do with like move two is bring a unit from hand into play, which you can easily do with create.
Until the next this update.
Which I mean, I know you'll be fixing that. You'll have an update that'll make it only target golems, but still, at the moment,
So this card has little brother who says oh, very cute. I started thinking again about the error wasp. Not in the context of this, but in context of Python, right? Because all of that software stuff, like, can you use that with Python or not?
I've actually played a Python loop deck
I've seen
few
Python loop
weeks
decks.
ago. It
I didn't someone play that against the streamer?
I
What was
have
his
no
name?
idea. I did not watch that stream.
I think
But
it.
I've build the deck myself. It is very, very funny, and you could definitely run the Wasp in that deck. But you can also do better things than playing a 3 mana 6/5 or a 0 mana 6/5.
Yeah.
In fact, you know what's a 0 mana 6/5? Python, and that comes with Ward and Rebound.
So true.
So yeah.
So, any more cards you want to talk about?
Yeah, I don't know. We might talk about the Titan it's himself, but if you guys have the time still.
I mean, I
I'm
still have
Polish.
time. I haven't been texted for
It's
dinner yet.
fucking almost 1 a.m. I don't have anything better to do. Like my shift at the coal mine starts tomorrow. Okay, and we all know that Silesian people don't
Puapka, we
sleep.
already have the Titan of Eternity on the other tab.
Oh, then fuck you. Okay, Puapka, make another tab just to piss him off.
No! God damn it, no!
There we go.
So Titan of
Owned epic
Eternity
style.
is 7 mana Wax Golem Titan from Lux with Ward, Overrun, Rebound. After you play a strength action that costs 5 or less, create and play a copy of it. So the rebound probably doesn't matter much, huh? On high cost units.
Can I just
Especially that
state,
this
I'm
is
glad
an
we're
engine with
moving Lux away
Ward.
from like target units with your actions to just strength actions in general.
No, I don't. It's more of
I mean, I
it's
feel
more.
like it makes it at least a little less restricted because we've shown that like target stuff isn't, you know.
It's not really about that. It's more a sub archetype of the tribe.
It's more about doing more
Uh,
things than discarding all things.
Like
It's not.
Wax has for a long time had three of identities basically. Uh, Strength Action Tribal, Target, which is the more popular one because that was the first, and copying shit. And this just goes to the first one. The rebound does actually matter, um, because keep in mind if this gets rebounded, it does regain the ward. This will eat up at least 2 cards of interaction for the opponent to remove it, and then you could just fucking drop it again.
Uh,
And
no, it
the
can
opponent,
be removed by Bonsai Bomber as one card, actually.
either that or
darn, the
or
Bonsai Bomber strikes again. You hate to see it. Never mind, unplayable. Unfortunate. No, but seriously though, and this is very much an effect that your opponent will want to remove. Um, I've recently, in fact, I believe yesterday, checked the pool of 5 cost or less strength actions, um, just because of this card, and there is a lot of very good ones. Some very notable ones are Melting Fervor, or Fervor, however you pronounce it, uh,
I generally don't.
which allows you to just give a unit +2/+2 and resurrect it. Let's resurrect a ally in graveyard that costs less than the target's attack.
So
If you target the Titan with Melting Fervor twice, you are cheating out a 9 or less cost and an 11 or less cost from your graveyard. That's a lot of tempo. Additionally, you have access to Life Force Ragia, which is 5 mana deal 5 with lifesteal. That is 10 damage worth of burn with lifesteal. It is
and take
definitely
note, this
very
isn't limited to
scary.
once per turn. This is whenever you play a strength
Yes,
action.
yes, you can double a lot of stuff with this. This card is very, very strong and very, very sticky. I feel the main downside to it is, of course, how expensive it is, and that its cost brings up the question of what deck do you run it in,
it
because
has no ambush or anything either.
it's a complete just flat play,
So
which
you probably
means you're
want to
probably
cheat it
not running it
out.
in Hellbound. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Uh,
If only there was
yeah,
some way.
the Codeblock archetype would definitely play something like this as the big thing to cheat out.
Do we have even strength actions that cost more than 5 that aren't just board wipes? That's something you want to copy, but that would be just too
Yes,
much.
there are. two in particular that are insanely strong. First, the Forge Overrun,
Oh yeah.
and
And
second,
Bella's
Bella's Divination. Bella's Divination doubled, if you go for the third effect, is fill your board with 7/7s with Ward and Rebound. Because you
base?
can make 6 copies of this guy.
But that's 14 mana combo. That seems fair to me. I don't know. Yeah,
So the restriction should be there.
yeah, I
I like
can see that.
that restriction is actually why I pulled up the card pool in the first place, because I was like, should it be there? Can it get away with not having it? And then I looked at the card pool and I was like, yeah, okay, maybe that should stay. So yeah,
So, do you
very good
guys
card.
have anything on the list you want to talk about?
I don't believe so. I think there may be some like shit anon design that I want to maybe rant over, but I don't. Oh, artistic kindling. Wow, that is a dog shit design right here. Uh, so this card falls under a very specific subsection of burn cards that says, "My brother in Christ, the downside doesn't matter if the opponent is fucking dead." This card basically cannot cost 1 mana. It is very silly for this card to cost 1 mana, because this will usually burn for, if you're playing this in a Helden deck, probably around 5 to 6 damage, if you're like on a high roll. In a deck that can draw more cards, like Ashgurdy actually.
Or first knights, because those like to draw cards. Assuming like you're allowed, if you want to go
Not
off
really.
affinity.
First Knights actually struggle a lot with card draw.
Oh, thought they
Yeah,
did
they have
do a
low
lot.
level, that's about it.
And it's just,
They actually run
yeah,
out of resources very often.
yeah, I
But
can
Ashgurdy
see
actually
that.
draws a ton of cards right now with, well, first of all, going +3 from just being Ashgurdy and her Courier Knights, and an Upload Tail. And usually in Ashgurdy, I think this can almost certainly for 2 mana burn for 9
Also,
to 8
for two
damage.
no control, just being able to randomly burn for 12 is kind of bullshit.
Yep, it is. And this gets even funkier if we consider things like Rebound and the Essence Shifter. And at that point, you realize that, oh, you can just make this not really have a downside, right? Ooh. Uh,
You guys
so
really
yeah,
should do something about the hooligan who designed the Sun Shifter.
so yeah,
Okay, but
TLDR, do
can this
consider the
design
fact that
be
your downside,
balanced with right cost though?
you can make it like 5 to 6 mana.
Because I remember Mind Blow, and that was a very epic card unless you were a perma, and it allowed you to like counter those big hand decks in.
Yeah, the thing isn't exactly that.
Yeah, this is the
In
opposite, and it's kind of interesting, but it's obviously too strong right now. But maybe there is a cost that is right for this design. Also,
I
the card born and on the sub right now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and to be fair, that makes a lot of sense because I'm pretty sure none of those cards will get in. Uh, this I mean, yeah, 5 to 6 mana is probably around there. The question is, do you want to have control decks just end the game through 12 damage of burn?
No,
Or would you prefer them to have more interesting win cons?
yeah, no, I didn't really want them to end the game like that.
Yeah, it's kind of the inherent issue with this card. It's trying. I think it's very much trying to be an aggro bird. Also, that's another thing. It's both players. You better have some life gain, or be the beat down.
I didn't read that.
And also, this can cause draws because it's both players, and that is what we call very unepic.
So yeah, this is just aggro. Control won't run it.
Control can run it if it has enough life gain. Permo, for example, specifically self-suck variants,
Plant finisher.
have a ton of life gain. So yeah. And Fortuno, after you stabilize, you can regain a lot of life with like Lucifuge with Life Bond from the candy or the Star Chips. You have a lot of options for life gain.
I'm wondering if we should stop at this point because we covered a lot of the cards.
We really did, and we probably talked for an hour already. So I was also going to suggest going through the weekly cards earlier, but yeah. So if you guys don't have energy, we can just stop. So let me just.
Whatever, there's nothing relevant in the weekly cards, right? Every card is bad.
So
They
true.
all suck.
And those
This is submitted for our disapproval.
and those in game are even worse. Goodbye.